Canada's legal cannabis market is about to get a little bigger. Today, the federal government announced that edibles will become available for purchase this December. But there are tight rules about what's in it and how it's sold. The CBC's Katie Simpson is here with all of the details. So Katie, tell us, what did the government announce today?
Well, the government had been expected, this is part of the next wave of the legalization process. And so today, the government announced that it's not going to be until mid-December at the earliest that the stores that are licensed retailers, can actually start selling edibles as well as topicals and extracts. Those are a number of different products that there is a big market for, according to some of the people who work in the industry that we spoke with today, have to say. But again, this is part of the larger process with the government trying to legalize marijuana, legalize these products. And there are going to be some limits here as well. The government announcing that the way that edibles will be packaged, they'll be limited to 10 milligram serving sizes. And there will also continue to be the rules around how much marijuana or how much cannabis people can buy when they are at one of these licensed retailers. Bill Blair, who is been in charge of this legalization program, he earlier today spoke with reporters and defended the way the government has moved forward on this.
I've heard from the industry and people saying, but we could make more money if you only did this or relaxed these regulations. But quite frankly, that's not our motivation. Our motivation is and will always be to protect our kids, to protect the health and safety of of Canadians, and to keep our communities safe and to displace that illicit market that has developed over decades.
So the government has said from the beginning that the reason it is doing this is it wants to make it harder for kids to get marijuana. It wants to eliminate the black market. Those things, that'll be a long-term achievement. That has not happened yet if they are able to achieve that. But this is the next step in that wave.
Okay, so what's the reaction been so far today?
Well, we went to a marijuana shop. I'd never been to one before. And we went, and they're very busy.
We may have to fact check that. Go ahead.
It was very, very busy. And we went in and spoke with Michael Patterson, who's a co-partner at Fire and Flower. And he says that one of the biggest things ever since his shop opened back in April, one of the biggest things that customers ask is when can they get their hands on edibles? Have a listen.
Just because in the previous black market, you really had no idea what you were consuming, and because there was such a delayed effect when it hits, people quite often would have very bad experiences. So there's a lot of people who are interested in consuming cannabis, not by smoking it, and would love edibles. They just don't really want to take the risk of what's currently out there.
So that edibles opens up a completely different discussion, because right now on the black market, as Michael just mentioned, no one knows what they're getting really. Also, there's the concern, which is a concern for the Canadian Centre for Substance Use and Addictions. They have a concern about people who might not know what they're doing if they are taking these, because the body processes edibles in a different way than if you were to, say, smoke a joint or smoke a J, as the kids say. Have a listen.
I think one of my biggest concerns is overconsumption or overintoxication. With smoked cannabis, you start to feel the effects, relatively quickly. If you're using an edible cannabis product, though, it can take up to 2 hours before you can feel the effects.
So,
sorry, your smoke a J line has got me thrown. Go ahead.
No, so this is a next phase thing. Obviously, that center, the official we spoke with from the center, says this needs to be researched heavily. There needs to be a lot of precautions around this, particularly because there are some very serious fears about, what if kids accidentally get their hands on this? People who don't even know it's a cannabis edible eat it, and they don't want to have an experience like that. So there's still a lot of work to be done around that. But for those who are interested in the edible products, they got to wait until mid-December.
Okay, Katie, lots to chew on. Thanks so much. CBC's Katie Simpson.
I've heard from the industry and people saying, but we could make more money if you only did this or relaxed these regulations. But quite frankly, that's not our motivation. Our motivation is and will always be to protect our kids, to protect the health and safety of of Canadians, and to keep our communities safe and to displace that illicit market that has developed over decades.
Canadians will soon be able to legally consume a new range of cannabis products. Edibles such as baked goods, candy, and cannabis extracts will be available this December, as well as topicals like ointments, creams, and even makeup. But the government is setting strict rules on them. Each individual package of edibles will be limited to a maximum of 10 milligrams of THC, and packaging must be plain and cannot appeal to children. Also, cannabis products containing alcohol, nicotine, or caffeine will be prohibited unless it's natural caffeine, like what's found in chocolate, for instance. So, is industry on board with these regulations? Sebastian St. Louis is the co-founder and CEO of HEXO, a licensed cannabis producer based in Gatineau. He joins us now from Montreal. Sebastian, thanks for taking the time. I want to start with your overall impression of the regulations rolled out today. What's your reaction to those?
I think from HEXO's perspective, we're really pleased at the progress that we're making in Canada. I mean, we're on the world stage, world leader, creating just amazing experiences for consumers. And now we have a whole new way to delight our customers. So we're very excited about October and December.
Walk me through some of the specific regulations here, though, because it makes it clear that the products cannot be appealing to youth. How do you navigate that? What does that mean? Because a chocolate bar or a gummy bear, the cookies, these are appealing to kids.
Well, we're working very tightly with Health Canada on exactly how we roll out the products, and bringing cannabis into responsible use has been a core tenet of what HEXO's been all about for the last 6 years. The interesting thing about legalization of cannabis, as we've seen in the stats in Colorado and now in Canada even, is we see a reduction in youth use. And so as we move into edibles now, we'll simply apply the principles that we've learned from dried marijuana and oils, make sure that we don't put the products within easy access of youths, make sure that the packaging is not appealing to them, and of course avoid certain form factors when we're talking about gummies, about things that could look like a toy or a gummy. Okay,
so you have to have plain packaging, and how would you make a edible chocolate bar or an edible cookie, for example, that isn't appealing to a youth? Because those seem, my kids, they like chocolate bars, they like cookies.
It starts from the safety of the distribution and then from the safety of the packaging itself. So we put everything in child-resistant containers, and then, of course, it's up to the adults that purchase cannabis to make sure they store them in a safe location out of the reach of children.
The limits of 10 milligrams of THC in a package of edibles, people tell me that this is a low level of THC compared to what's there in black market edibles. So is this a potent enough limit for the market?
Yeah, the exciting thing about the research HEXO is doing today is that we can actually increase the effect in body with much lower doses than what's typically seen in black market. We've been able to go to a smaller particulate side, and the result is that it's a safer product. It's a lower dose, it's a better experience for the consumer, and we're absolutely happy to work within the 10 milligram limit. People will have a very pleasant experience with those levels.
Okay, so legalizing it is obviously a new frontier and experience for Canada, but for a lot of people who might try this for the first time, edibles might not be the way they're introduced to cannabis for a lot of people. So will there be instructions, will there be guidance on how an edible would affect a consumer for the first time versus other methods of consuming cannabis?
So interesting that we're now only legalizing edibles, but HEXO has had experience with edible cannabis products on the market now for many years. We were the first company in Canada to introduce our decarb product, which is an edible cannabis powder, which fits currently under the dried marijuana regs. And so we've built a whole slew of education programs and working with the distribution in the provinces in getting that information into the hands of consumers. Start low, go slow.
Right, so but if I want to try an edible for the first time, how am I going to know how that may affect me? Is there going to be some sort of advice that comes with the package when I buy it, or is it just going to be trial and error?
There is reaction depending on everyone's biological makeup for different doses. So that's why we suggest, for example, especially in the case of our new beverages that we're launching with Molson Coors this coming October, what we're going to be doing is ensuring that the product is sessionable and that it starts at a very low dose, and especially in the case of THC. So the idea that someone's going to be able to work up to an appropriate dose for the effect that they're looking, starting at, say, 2 milligrams of THC, and then if somebody feels that they need to have a higher dose, well, then they can have a second or third session of the product.
Okay, so what are you doing with Molson Coors? Because the regulations on the edible says no alcohol, no nicotine, no caffeine. How's that working?
Well, we think that mixing alcohol, and this is both HEXO and Molson's position, that mixing alcohol and cannabis is unsafe, and so we're not shipping any product that will have alcohol and cannabis together. What we're doing is we're creating formulations powered by HEXO that'll help people for fun, sleep, focus, sport, sex, and diet. We're inserting those formulations into all kinds of great base beverages that Molson is investing in, and those will range from sparkling waters to, of course, some de-alcoholized beers that people are familiar with.
Okay, so you're using them for manufacturing and distribution and bottling and canning and that sort of thing, but not alcohol connected with it.
No, but the base products as well that they're investing in, because they're starting to diversify and starting to buy other beverage brands outside of beer.
Okay, so Molson Coors doesn't have trouble supplying the market with its product. The marijuana industry, the cannabis industry has had problems supplying the market since legalization began. How do we avoid some of the problems we've seen with traditional cannabis on edibles?
I think that there's been a lot of lessons learned by the industry in the last 6 years. HEXO, for one, is ready for October 17th. Now, it looks like it may be a few extra months to get products on shelf, but we're already ramped up. The logistics supply chain is done. We have the largest cannabis manufacturing center on the planet in Belleville, Ontario, 1.5 million square feet of straight manufacturing. We have over 1,100 employees hard at work, including 25 top PhDs, food scientists, and the products are going to be absolutely fantastic and ready on store shelves with our partners, of course, starting in Quebec with SQDC, but Canada-wide.
Okay, Sebastian, thanks so much for your time. That's Sebastian St. Louis, co-founder and CEO of HEXO.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video. Thanks for watching.